One thing to keep in mind when you're animating an FK spine is an FK spine works the way the human body does. Essentially, when you're animating an FK spine, for most rigs, not all rigs, but most rigs, it's good to select all of the FK spine controls together and then move them together, because that's the way our spine works. If I rotate my spine in any direction, it's not just one section of my spine that's moving, it's the entire spine. So if I do this in my chair, I'm just rotating my spine, I can feel that rotation happening from my lumbar region, the lower back, which is attached all the way down to the pelvis, all the way up to the top here. Everything's twisting a little bit. It's hard to just try and rotate one section of your spine. You can't really. The problem with rotating them individually is what you're going to get is a wiggly spine. So for example, you might take the center section here and rotate that a lot, but the bottom section hasn't moved, and then you could counter animate the top here, and now everything's out of whack. Some parts are going one direction, others are going in this direction, and all different ways. It's a nightmare to fix. It's a pain. So move them together. Now, is that really how the body moves? Not quite, because our spine tends to move more in the lower back. If you look at the anatomy of the spine, you've got your rib cage here, then your lower back, and then your pelvis right there. Then you've got your neck and the head. So if you look at the anatomy of the spine, there's a few things to watch out for. One is that we have a natural curve in our spine. It's this S curve. Is this super important as animators? Yes, it's important to know, but as animators, we can exaggerate this and push the straights or bends of a spine. So it's just important to be aware of that. Naturally, the lumbar region has a little bit of a dip in there. So this is the lumbar, this is the thoracic right here, and then this is the cervical spine. Do you need to know those names? Not really. And yes, thank you for that demo. That's a lot more on posing spines right in there, if you want to go really in depth. To answer the things quickly, when you're posing out the spine, in FK, we move everything together, but it's important to know that the lower region right here is going to tend to move more because there's no bone here. The top section here, you've got your ribs. Your ribs are going to keep the upper spine from rotating as much as your lower spine. So just be aware of that. Now, in animation terms, what does that mean? Well, basically, when we're ready for polish, what we can do is just go into the graph editor and we take all of our spine controls and we could take the lower spine, scale this up a little bit. So now it moves a little bit more, and then scale the other ones down a little bit. There you go. Now the lower spine moves more and you're done. The whole shot. And it's a little bit more natural. Honestly, not that much. It's just a nice polished detail. So that's FK spine in a nutshell. You move it as if you're moving the real spine. Now, IK spine is really nice because IK spine makes it very easy to build in overlap and all sorts of really cool stuff. But there is a problem with IK spine, and that is that by default, depending on the rig, some rigs you notice this a lot, it doesn't just rotate. If I just rotate the IK spine here, I can get decent posing with this rig. This rig's IK spine is pretty good. But I can start getting deformations, especially if I start pushing things too far. So once you start pushing your spine here in IK, most of the time you will have to translate the spine as well a little bit to fix the curve of the back. Certain rigs, this is going to be very, very important. It just, if you don't translate it, the spine's just going to be broken and it's going to be S-curved like crazy. So IK spines are nice, but they can be very tricky to get just the right amount of motion and not have the spine stretch. For subtle shots, that can be very tricky. For more dynamic shots, cartoony shots especially, that can be very nice because you can stretch the character much more easily, get really just more visual posing than anatomically correct posing. So they both have their pros and cons. That's basically it in terms of like quick spine, how to animate the spine, FK or IK. The other thing is try never to animate them both at the same time. There will be moments where you can use, let's say I'm animating the FK spine and then I can use an IK spine to add a little overlap in something, very slight. But for kind of your core mechanics animation, your core motion of the spine, try not to animate them both at the same time. It's just going to get weird and it's not going to look great. So be very careful of that.